thank you, Sarah, for joining us today. You've got such a brilliant cause, so I'm really excited to speak with you. So first of all, thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, fantastic. So let me introduce this. So Inclusive Books for Children is a charity that aspires for mainstream children's books to be inclusive and for inclusive children's books to be in the mainstream. It was
Absolutely.
founded by Marcus and Sarah Satha in 2022 and is about to host its first award show. With me is the co-founder, lovely Sarah. So again, of course, you must have had to answer this question so many times, which is, how did it get started, and what inspired you to actually create inclusive books for children?
Well, it's probably not such an original story. It just started because it's what my husband Marcus and I wished existed when we first started reading to our eldest child.
Mm.
She's still only 6. But I guess when she was kind of 1 or 2, we sort of threw ourselves into this task because we really love books. And we just found very quickly that the books pushed our way by the mainstream actually made for quite uncomfortable reading for our family. And we worried that our daughter would internalize the idea that a story about someone like her, a little girl with brown skin, was not worth telling. So I poured myself into sourcing an inclusive library for her, and I scour niche blogs and Instagram accounts. And I actually came up with quite a lot. So it sort of was there, and you can cobble something together. And it was such a lot of work that I felt I wanted to share what I found with others who felt the same way. And I guess I sort of hoped that this might even have a knock-on effect on the industry. I wondered if the books could be more easily found, then more of them might be bought, and perhaps higher sales would translate into more commissions. And what started out as kind of me cataloging the 300 books that I
Gosh.
gathered,
Oh
a
gosh.
little bit obsessive. It then kind of snowballed, and we took on entered a partnership with CLPE, who
Mm.
used the Reflecting Realities report that documents the representation in by actually counting representation of in terms of characters portrayed as coming from minoritized ethnic backgrounds in children's
Mm.
books. So their work is really important, and we partnered with them to then really complete the database. And then it's just sort of carried on snowballing. Publishers have been really supportive, and they send
Mm.
us any books, old and new, that they think might meet our criteria. And now we have a dedicated publisher liaison and book procurement team led by Jake Hope, who is has an incredible wealth of experience in children's literature and publishing, and a team of 12 reviewers who are all experts both in terms of children's literature but also in terms of inclusivity and diversity, and they all
Mm.
bring a wealth of perspectives and experience to the team. Um, now the kind of icing on the cake is the awards, which
Mm.
are next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much. You've done so much in such a short space of time. It's quite remarkable. And I was wondering about those experts who are choosing the children's literature. So, how did you find them? Did they approach you? Did you approach them? How did that work?
Well, yeah, I think probably each one is kind of its own story, but I think I just was so lucky early on because I am quite introverted, and the whole thing
Mhm.
really involved a lot of cold emailing and sort of taking a punt with a direct message on Instagram, and actually a
Ouch.
remarkable number of hits, but also a lot of misses. But I think enough major wins really early on that to kind of bolster my confidence and feel that this could really happen. And
Mm.
2 really pivotal encounters of people who kind of accepted a meeting with me without knowing anything about me or the
Mm.
project or anything in such a generous way. Where Jake Hope, who I've already mentioned, but also absolutely key to the project Fabia Turner, who
Mm.
in her own right founded the amazing Jericho Prize for
Oh yeah.
unpublished Black British authors, children's authors, aspiring children's authors. And she came on as a reviewer early on and just smashed through so many books with her like impeccable reviews and judgment that then I really knew this project was going to work out.
Yeah.
And then kind of, they had some great suggestions and those people had some great suggestions, and it's just kind of branched out from there. And actually, a really beautiful element is that it's become quite a family thing, because
Mm.
kind of get these pockets where, Janet Noble, who was the chair of the judges for the Carnegie Awards
Wow.
last year, and is also a kind of illustrious librarian with a lot of experience. Her daughter's just joined as well, who
Oh.
is an early years expert and works in TV. And then meanwhile, one of our judges is Jeffrey Boachi for the awards next week, and his
Mm.
wife, who manages his career,
Oh.
has also come on board as a core team member
Oh
and
wow.
awards coordinator. And there's a few stories like that where kind of people just kind of are bringing their family in to be involved, and kind of just works really well that way.
Yeah, that's lovely. That is a totally different kind of work environment, I think, when you have that kind of it's more than sort of a work, it's a mission, isn't it? That you're sort of part of grassroots essentially.
Yeah, everyone's really committed to the cause. And I think I realized this sort of late last year, because I think, I paint a very smooth picture, but it's not like there haven't been hiccups. And,
Mm.
um, I think at some point I was relying on a couple of third party kind of suppliers to fill in some gaps where I didn't know the right people.
Mm.
And, not everybody is sensitive to the nuances of this work. And
Yeah.
I just realized that we just need to have only people who really get it and really care anyway. Because unlike lots of kind of lines of work, here we just have a real opportunity to have people who really, really care about it. So why not
Mm.
only have people like that? Because then we can all feel like we're like pulling together for something we really feel is important and want to make it happen together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, sort of to drift onto a tangent, but remote working has
Mm.
done us such a huge favor. There's no way we could have
Yeah.
this amazing team in a different era where the technology and the habit wasn't established. And so, everybody's doing their work from all over the country, and sometimes even in other countries, and
Mm.
around their parenting or other, commitments.
Mm.
It allows us to have some brilliant disabled reviewers or people who are still shielding, for example. Um, and so it just
Yeah.
allows for us to have a team that could never have come together otherwise.
Which means it's like fully exclusive. I mean, inclusive in that sense, because exactly, it's so hard. I'm a disabled person, and so it is remote stuff is really helpful. Having
Yeah.
things online is really helpful. But do you find the diversity of children's books has increased at all, like over the years? I'm like, do you feel that there is some kind of change happening at all, where we're seeing more inclusive characters, essentially?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that the Reflecting Realities report from CRPE really documents that from a ethnic representation perspective only, but that is a reasonable dimension to look at it from. And there you can see that the numbers do sharply increase. And if we read the report, I think it really reflects our experience
Mm.
reviewing the books that there are some the data requires some kind of qualifying.
Mm.
Some of the easy ones have come first, so there is a lot more representation, including
Mhm.
at a main character level, of characters um, that are portrayed as coming from a minoritized ethnic background.
Mhm.
Um, and that's mainly happening at a picture book level,
Yeah. Oh.
possibly because it's much easier to achieve that in the illustrations.
Mm.
Um, and so in terms of the numbers of books available and the quality, I would say definitely since Reflecting Reality started keeping a tab on it,
Mm.
it's much improved. But the figures still seriously lag that the
Mm.
proportion of children in primary schools that come from a minoritized ethnic
Mm.
background. So there's still a lot of catching up to do in that respect. And then in terms of the other lenses on inclusivity that we look at, there isn't even data on that. We keep our own forms of data, so it would be interesting potentially to sort of look into an analysis of that at some point. But it is thin,
Mm.
maybe improving, but from a very low base. But there's definitely more there, so I think that's where we come in, because we can then pull it all together into one place. And I think by offering both new titles that are coming out all the time
Mm.
and also anything that's suitable from any publisher's backlist, we kind
Mm.
of are able to create a deep enough pool that we can offer people who use our website almost a mainstream browsing experience,
Mm.
because you can then come
Yeah.
in and find something and tailor your search to the child that you're looking for a book for. Whereas, I suppose if you just went into a bookshop or looked for a list, it would be quite limited. You might just be looking at the very recent books, or maybe it's a list from a couple of years ago.
Mm.
Whereas we're kind of pooling everything together to offer the
Yeah.
maximum selection, whilst also being really careful to filter what's on the site
Yeah.
for quality of both storytelling and representation. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what I was wondering about that, because is it possible to make an intersectional kind of database? Is that possible, or is that really hard, difficult to do?
In terms of actually the ability to filter for intersectional representation, or in terms of having any books that would meet such a search, do you
Yeah,
mean?
I think both, to be fair, because having a database is quite hard, isn't it? You'd have to sort of think about each one and then categorize and then put them together. And then also, I'm sure you must have come across the books, but I guess they're not as much as a sort of maybe just one specific identity being
Yeah.
targeted. Is that correct?
So we do a strange exercise where we do go through every book that comes our way um, and mark down every type of representation that the book offers, both from
Mm.
a main character perspective and a central character perspective. So somebody who does have agency and a full characterization. Um, so we sort of do that exercise, and then um, one of the ways that you can use the website is using our filters. So
Mm-hmm.
you would go on, and you could first of all, if you wanted to, you could choose the exact age of the child that you're looking for a book for. And we
Mm-hmm.
at the moment cater for children between the ages of 1 and 9, but we're
Mm.
adding middle grade for 9 to 12-year-olds in the summer.
Wow.
So that's one thing. Then the next box that you can filter through if you want is representation. And it's a sort of and function. So you could go in and be like, I would like a book for a 3-year-old that has a South Asian disabled main character.
Mm.
And you might or might not get results on that.
Yeah, it's quite
That,
hard. Yeah.
and if a filter isn't there that you're looking for, or a book isn't there, it's not because we don't think it's important, it's
No.
because it doesn't exist. But if it does exist, we'll have it and it'll be there.
Mm.
But there's more and more, so it's not impossible. And yeah.
It may help identify gaps, anyways. If there are areas where it's like, oh, there isn't something there, someone might then be like, oh, I'm going to write that book
Yes.
because it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. So
Maybe
actually,
it will.
that's quite that's quite useful, isn't it? As a way,
Absolutely.
as a guide as well.
Actually, there would be books. They're popping into my head now. There definitely would be books with South Asian disabled representation.
Yes, I know one that's just come out. So yeah, there definitely is now stuff coming out. But I'm like, of course, we're going to get onto the award show, which obviously is coming up very soon. And so, do you want to explain like how this came about, and obviously when exactly it is?
Yeah, sure. So I think sort of in tandem with, Marcus and I at the beginning just being like, we think that this is a niche that's small enough that we could have a go at maybe tackling this little corner, and that it could have wide repercussions in terms of social justice. We thought this website, would help address a gap. And then what else can we do to just try and break inclusivity out of a niche, and into a kind of aspirational mainstream territory. So we thought, why not try some awards that really celebrate and elevate creative talents that are staking their claim on equality and inclusivity, and creating these wonderful books for our children, and to sort of have a go by offering a really fun and maybe a little bit glamorous awards ceremony, with a covetable accolade and a big prize.
Yeah.
It's become something that people would be really serious about trying to win and publish books for.
Yeah, I know. I was really amazed that it's £10,000, isn't it, for
Yeah,
the award, which is
so that
considerable.
is hopefully, yeah, and that is for each of the winners in 3 age categories. So we've got our baby and toddlers, picture books for 3 to 7-year-olds, and children's fiction for 5 to 9-year-olds.
Mm,
So we've got 3 age categories, and the long lists and then the short lists were just full of the most wonderful books. So they in themselves form an excellent list that
mm,
anyone who just wanted to, instantly revolutionize a stale bookshelf with for a kid or children in a school or nursery or library could
yeah.
do far worse than just going for those, for sure. And yeah, on Wednesday we are going to find out who actually won them.
Way, that's really big, and yeah, I'm excited to hear about the winners of that one because again, inaugural award show, and we hopefully it will just continue and continue the trend, and hopefully, actually, people will start writing more content as a result because of it.
Fine.
And so, oh yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so there's a fine balance there, isn't there? I'm like, hopefully there'll still be some level of, I don't know, interest in it, even though it becomes mainstream. I think it's always good to have those databases, anyways, just because
Yes,
it can be hard to find, and if someone's already classified it, then it just makes things so much easier.
it's true.
Because
Well, I'm
yeah,
glad you appreciate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's not easy. It's a lot. It's a very big undertaking. So yeah,
It
it
is a lot
sounds
of
like
work.
yeah.
Yeah, and that is the idea, is we just want to do all of the heavy lifting so that then the people who come and use the site, it's just kind of, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's easy to use. The reviews are like snappy and brief, but sort of unequivocal, so that you can come in, make a decision, know you've made a great choice
Mm,
for the kid that you were buying for, or the kids, and kind of move on with your day. Like, we just want to take
mm,
the hard work out of it and make it really easy for people. Just remove all the obstacles between a person who's interested in an inclusive book for a child and actually making a decision to get one.
mm. Yeah, definitely. I think that's so key because it is just ridiculous. It's so hard to find, and we're living in an era where there's like all these book bans happening in the US and
Oh,
things
don't
like that.
even.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to see something like this where it's almost like a antidote to what's happening over there.
Yeah.
And do you feel that too?
Yeah. I mean, uh, yeah, let's just get into the state of the world. Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, should we count ourselves lucky that there's no book bans in the UK, and that we can
Fingers
have a site
crossed.
like this? Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not beyond the bounds of
No.
imagination, is it?
No,
Mm.
not anymore, I think. Not anymore. Anything seems to be possible, but it's good that it's there, either way, because it means it's just sort of just in case anything happens, there's already a
Yeah,
resource there
it's
to
done.
stop it. Yeah, exactly.
You can't delete anything from the internet. No one can
Exactly.
take this away from us. Yeah.
No, that's really good. So again, thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate you speaking with me, and it's such a fantastic endeavor. So really, I think bravo for doing so much in the space of such short time.
Thank you, Safati. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been really enjoyable talking to you.
You too.